Hello, and happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of the Flight Attendant Show, the weekly series I created for everything that we are curious about, challenged by, or just want to talk about, or maybe that we already are talking about. Things like today's topic, which is all about this LinkedIn Live. Do we think it's exciting? Do we think it might be a little gimmicky? Joining me today to talk about it is somebody who knows a thing or two about live streams. And that you see him right there. That's Trevor Van Worden. So this is his LinkedIn page, Trevor. Trevor knows a thing or two because he is the host of 3 different live streams. So he is the host of the Hotness Unleasher show, the 344, and the Early. And we will talk about each of those once we get started. But before we do, as we always do, I kick off the show with 3 housekeeping tips, and I already see Melissa here in the audience, and she's doing her thing. Hey, Melissa. So as you come into the chat, please take a moment to introduce yourselves. Let us know where in this great big wide world you are watching from. And remember, any questions, comments, thoughts, we are always welcoming those. Number 2, where to find us. Well, obviously, if you're watching us, you found us. But just in case you haven't, or you want to invite any of your friends to come and join us today, we are always live streaming every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. So what does that look like? Well, on LinkedIn, look for me, Gretchen Skalka. Go to my profile. If you see me moving around or you see the big red live button, click it. You're in the show. Super easy. If you are on YouTube, we just launched the Flight Attendant channel. Yay, subscribe. But you can also click the live tab and get right in the show that way. If we are friends on Facebook, you already have the link. And on Twitch, you can go to the Flight Attendant at Twitch TV and get to us that way. Fantastic. And number 3, never start a show, never do anything without a moment of gratitude. And of course, the gratitude is for you, because why would we be here if it wasn't for the people watching? Thank you. It is not lost on me that there are a gazillion, billion, trillion things all competing for all of our time every moment of the day. So the fact that you chose to spend just a little bit of your path, either live or on the replay with Trevor and I here today, means so much. So thank you. And without further ado, thank you, Trevor, for being a guest today. I want to put up your contact information for everybody on LinkedIn at Trevor JBW. And then he has a company page, the Hotness Unleasher. So definitely connect with him if you have not already. I'm so excited to talk to you about live streaming. I'll get to my personal thing about why you're partly responsible for the Flight Attendant show. But thank you for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, I can see most of the folks in the chat here, and
Right.
I got to tell you, it's the hardest thing for me just to not say anything. I just got to. You're the host. I have total respect for being a host, and just let it flow. I love how you're just like, you got all the channels dialed in, right? I'm such a slacker on that, right? I haven't hooked up Twitch. I haven't hooked up Facebook.
I'm not saying what to do on them. I'm just saying they're there.
Well, that's part of the deal, right? We got to do that.
I will say this. Bruce is in the audience, and I'm highlighting his thing, right? Saying I don't know what to do on a lot of them. It should be said that I do have a Discord channel that I did start. I didn't realize I was broadcasting live on my Discord channel like all day, one day last week. And I'm getting ready to go take Newman out for his evening walk. And I hear my phone going, Skalka. And I'm like, who is that? Where is that? It's Bruce saying, hey, do you know you've been broadcasting all day? I did not. So
that's
having
hilarious.
them and knowing what to do with them, 2 different things. So yes.
Oh, that's so good. That is awesome. Yeah, we use Discord in as our family communication messaging app.
Oh,
right?
nice.
Yeah. So, and that was brought to me by, because I have I am a parent of teenagers, and as such, they just didn't have time for Messenger or anything else. It had to be Discord, right? So yeah, so we're all in that space too. And there is I don't know if you're part of Travis Lochner's Discord channel.
No.
Yeah, so he's kind of the live stream dude, and I can't keep up with it, right? I just go out there and I'm just like, oh, are you serious? Like, what is happening here? It's crazy out there. You should check it out. I mean, just to get a feel for it. I can't remember the name of it. I'll send you a link. It's it's pretty rad, and it's very busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love the thought of it. You know, Bruce is special to me. He was on my team in my last corporate role, but he also has a crazy amount of knowledge about technology in general. And he has a Discord channel for Pokemon that's got like 15,000 people on it. And he's somebody that I'm going to tap into, like, understanding, but he set up a Discord channel when I left so we could all stay in touch
Oh,
for
cool.
which was great.
Yeah.
And there is a lot to learn there. Again, there's a lot to learn on Twitch and all of those. For me, when I set them up, I'm still learning. So like I was telling you before the show on Twitch, right now I'm in research mode. I did start a channel because I want to see how that goes. Now, again, this also goes back to why I'm indebted to you for being able to do this, because I know how to, I mean, for Melissa and Gabe and, you know, all the folks who, um, you know, do things and build in public, I can do that in a safe way. Nobody knows me on Twitch right now. So if
Mhm.
I blabber all over myself or majorly mess up, it's cool. Pick myself, dust myself off,
Mhm.
keep going. It's not even like I have to look over my shoulder, like, who saw that? Nobody's going to see it. So it's cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you invited me to be on the Hotness Unleasher show like last year, and I was like, yay, because that's my personality. And very quickly I was like, oh crap. That's a live show, like, that's video. I don't do video. I don't do
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
like, none of that for, like, a long time, and so that was really I had to figure that out. I had made a commitment, and I wanted to honor it, but I honestly didn't know how I was gonna do it, and so I had a project for myself to go live every day, and I did it on Facebook. Again, nobody knows me on Facebook. Nobody
Right.
cares what I do on Facebook. So
Yeah.
I went live every day until I wasn't panicked about doing it and seeing myself and what I might see in terms of the reason that I did it. I didn't want to see, like, you know, something wrong with me. And so
So
my little
you did Facebook Live before the Hotness show or after?
to get ready for the Hotness show.
No
I
kidding.
there's
I had
no
no
way
idea about that.
There's no way I
Wow.
could have done the Hotness Unleasher show if I had not done that beforehand. And actually, I did a video for the new Flight Attendant channel talking about how I had to do it to build my confidence to be able to do it. And I had a different reason for not doing video and photography for a long time, but
Yeah.
I still had to get over that hurdle. And so that was one of the ways that I did it. And I didn't think anybody was watching because I'm looking at the camera, not really at the screen. And all of a sudden, like, my phone is doing something and I see on the screen, like, my little sister was watching, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
okay. So she gets on screen. She's like, she wasn't kidding. It really pissed us off. She wouldn't let us do anything. And so, but I really do credit you for giving me the impetus to do that and sort of figure that out for myself. So yeah, you are definitely a catalyst for a lot of that. And I think that you've given a lot of us in your circle a platform to do that, even if it's just experimenting for ourselves and then bring that through and then watching you do it again with your 3 shows and the different, you know, kind of time formats and intentions and all that. It's inspiring. It is. I love the fact that on the 344 you're highlighting job seekers. Like, every one of them is sponsored by a job. I've never seen that before. And I
Well,
think that's wonderful.
I want to talk about that because that I think there's some intention. Like if you so part of my sort of MO is just to be always or intentionally say, like, what can we do next, right? What's the
Mhm.
next? How can we make this a little bit better?
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting there, right, and we're looking at these countdown timers, and like, look, I am not a graphics person, and the only reason I don't hire a graphics person is because I'm flying literally by the seat of my pants, and I cannot. I'm doing this graphic stuff like at the moment. It
Yeah.
needs to be available to me, right?
Yeah.
So I just make it up, right? I'm not whatever, and it's not very good, but okay. So I look at this giant white space, on my countdown timer. I'm like, what the hell? What? This
Mhm.
is dumb. I got 15 seconds. I can talk about somebody. And uh Lisa Renee Pence, she got a job. So, and she was one of the people that was featured, and she came to me via Neela. So I was just like, yeah, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of pooped out a little bit just because I kind of it got to be hard. 344 live as a daily got I got kind of tired, right? By the
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
by the 30th episode, it was just like, oh god, let's just make this happen, And I loved, like, it wasn't wasn't the doing of the show, but it was the constancy of the motion, right? Like
Okay.
I couldn't talk about anything else
Yeah.
in my profile, right? Like
Yeah.
it was like 3 posts a day about 344 live, whether anybody cared or not. And LinkedIn algo certainly didn't care. So it was like, I love coming out to people and saying like, hey, they say like, oh, I only got 1,000 impressions. I'm like, oh, brother.
If you only knew.
We
Yeah.
can talk about impressions.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. I get it. I mean, I've read about how it works and all that, and don't put outbound links in your post and this, that, and the other, and all the different things to do and then to not do, and all of that. And sometimes I think it's great, and sometimes I think I'm doing all the stuff. It's kind of like people who optimize their profile and do all the stuff, and things still don't happen. And some of that is, then I double down on, well, how am I showing up?
Mhm.
That's cool how my page is showing up, how my graphics are showing up, but how am I showing up? And am I showing up for other people? And sometimes I feel like I go dark on some platforms, and some, like, I'm not on a lot of them, but I'm most active on LinkedIn. But if I'm in a heavy production mode or heavy client session mode or whatever, I'm not on all day. And I try to limit the amount of time I actually do spend, because I can't get everything else done. I'm a one person business,
Yeah.
so I got to kind of do all that. So I get that. Although, speaking of the graphics, I love that background. I loved it. As soon as you debuted it, I was like, oh my God, I love it so much. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
No, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
The I don't ever know what's right or right, what's right or not right. I think there's just
Hmm.
all these sort of shades of just who we are and ideas that we have, and trying to make stuff work. Let's talk about, well, I want to talk about this, what our topic is, right? Because we could
Yes.
probably just
Yes.
go on and on, right? I want to touch on audio,
Yes.
because we've got Melissa here and we've got Samantha Sierra. Just anybody who's listening doesn't know, so they've both got audio shows, right?
Hmm.
And they're awesome.
They
Okay.
are. Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoy them. In fact, Melissa on Saturday, she, because her shows runs super early. It's like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. And it's a 2 hour. And I'm like, I'm on vacation, right? And I wake up and I see there's a DM from Melissa, like, where the hell are you? I'm like, okay. So I jump in, and it's just great. Like, it's just real people just talking, but it's a
Yeah.
totally different medium. And
Yeah.
it than this one, right? Where like this one is like, yeah, I gotta have the lights, right? I had to like bail out and fix my lighting because it was screwed up, right? And I have to make sure that I sort of look presentable, sort of. I still, like I said, I still have vacation beard, but it's
Me
uh
too. Yeah.
solid. But you got these backgrounds and stuff, right? And you kind
Yeah.
of worrying about that, and are we put together, right? And yeah, Melissa's always joking that she's just, in her pajamas hosting her show, right? That's solid, right? And I want to think about that, because I in terms of like this gimmick versus legit
Yep.
channel,
Yep.
how are we going to use it, right? Because business isn't really, I mean, I've been doing some research, right? And these live shows, particularly in like B2B tech right now, which is the arena where I play,
Hmm.
they don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
they're just not getting it.
Yeah.
And they're running their shows like they're just terrible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I think that Paul makes a really good point about the live format, whether it's live audio or live video. I do feel there's an authenticity there that you don't get with a scripted show. Now, that being said, we have a topic, the live format. What do we think about it? But, we're also going to talk about other things that, I mean, obviously it's not a scripted show. So with live formats, there is a certain authenticity there. I do think that a lot of businesses shy away from that because it's not a controlled environment. So because of the live environment, and there's no delay here, I could drop an F-bomb and that would be it. I mean, it would be in the show. So from a business standpoint, I know you have to think about that. There are probably also, indemnification kind of things that businesses have to consider when it comes to live. So I think that get out of, deference to what they may be dealing with, they can set the parameters, but it still might not go the way they want. And yeah.
Yeah,
Or they may not recognize the value. Maybe it's just that. Maybe they're like, like in my day we didn't have live, and so why do we need it? That kind of, kind of old thinking,
Yeah, the thing is though, they do live, right?
Okay.
They are doing it. They're just not doing it in a social, like on LinkedIn, right? So
Mhm.
at the very well, okay, so first off, I'm going to say, is live legit or is it a gimmick? It's totally legit. Okay, I'm 100% in. I think that this medium is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that the reason I think it's amazing is because it provides accessibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like I could, like right now at this moment, I'm 100% accessible to you, and to Wendy and to Sam and to Dean, right? And to all these other people that are in here who are chatting away, right? And
Yep.
and like that's it. Like so right now. And I think if you're a business, right? How do you provide access in this new world of buyers who don't want to talk to salespeople, right? 83% or whatever, this, only 17% of this all this stuff goes out around. How do you get how do you provide access to your buyer? And I think I think this medium does that. So they're doing live shows, but they're not in social.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And why
So
not?
I was gonna say, what would you advocate for that? Like, how would you, like, if you wanted to make that proposal and let them know, like, there's certain promise here, there's certain opportunity, certain benefit, how would you help sort of persuade them, negotiate them to do that?
Well, to Melissa's point here about too many employers scared of employees who have a following, I would okay, so I think there's probably, I want to sort of separate some of these verticals, right? Because I don't know that it applies to every vertical, right? So I've worked in pharmaceuticals, I've worked in insurance, I've worked in software, media, right? So I'm pretty sure that I don't know. All right. So, but to this point, like in tech, look, anything goes. There's no regulation, right? You can so instead of being scared, I think that leadership has to change the mindset of like, how can I harness that? Right? How can I put that to work? And to me, the most obvious way to do that is through lives, right? Why wouldn't you say, okay, hey, look, I got 5 employees. They're out there, they're active on social. Give them a Restream account, give them a StreamYard, whatever, right? Hook them up.
Yeah.
And say, hey, guess what? Why don't you stream our live show that we're running over here on 24 or on Zoom or whatever? Just throw it up, put it up.
Yeah.
Don't even announce it. Just put it up. And then all of a sudden it's just literally there, right? Why not? Why would you not do that? And yet nobody does that. Period. Nobody.
Yeah.
And I think it just misses the opportunity of creating access within a context. And then that rep or that marketer or that SME or whoever who's streaming can talk over it, right? So Adam Spock and I have got this whole Waldorf and Statler idea going, right? Where we're gonna like stream somebody, and I there's like some permissions and stuff, but we could totally do it for your show.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun. All right. Would you, okay, listen, how would you feel if Adam and I live streamed the Flight Attendant, right, on his channel and my channel simultaneously? So over the top of yours, right? So as a screen share. And then just like over on the side, commentated.
I would love it. I wanted somebody to roast a video that I did. So I put one out and I'm like, roast it. And people were like, I love my friends. I love my network because they're wonderful. But I actually want people to roast it. Be like, girl, why is there so much going on? All that. Why do you have all that? It's distracting. If it is, let me know. Or if I'm an ummer, if I've got the monster hanging on my shoulder every third word, let me know that. I try to watch him and get better. But the whole thing for me is I want to do this for everybody. I want to be able to bring people on and talk about things that people really want to talk about, that they're really challenged by, that they're curious about, that they're pissed off about. Whatever it is, I want to be able to do that. But the bottom line is that if it's not interesting or entertaining or whatever it is, if there's something that people are just like, "What? I don't understand," then they bounce. I do want people to do that. I would love that. Like to have you guys over here going like Mystery Science Theater 2000 or
Yeah.
whatever that whole
Yeah,
thing
yeah, yeah,
was.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So all right, I'll find out. I know he's been like so. So next Tuesday, who's your like? Send me a list of who your guests are, and we'll find somebody who
So
won't
we
be
yeah,
upset.
next week I'm in Alabama with my dad. So I'm actually
Yeah.
we're going to take a whoop breather on the
Okay.
flight attendant for 1 week only, and then Brian Smart comes back and we
I
are
love
going to be
Brian.
I do too. And
Okay,
he's
okay, Brian.
yeah.
Brian. So I've had Brian. Brian was on the 344, and he's been on Hotness Unleashed, so you totally know that guy. And
Yeah.
yeah, all right, all right. So, all right, all right. That'll be fun. All right,
Yeah.
that'll give Adam and I a chance to do it. But see, it's that like that's where I get really excited. It's like, how can we stretch this? And so so Sam right here, she said, do it for CC this weekend. So all those you are listening don't know. So Connecting Connections, right? And that's an audio event, right?
I'll be there.
Oh yes, and you'll be there, right? So and that'll be 2 hours after the
The
Hotness
coffee
Unleashed
chat.
show.
Uh, oh
And
yeah, that's right.
I think Melissa's. I'm not quite sure how she's. No, because coffee chat ends at 8.
Coffee. Well, for me, it's a 11. It's 11, or
Right.
well, I can jump on at 10. So
Anyway.
it's like 9. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah.
Okay. So
I have a full day Saturday.
all right. Well, it's so the opportunity is this combination and mashing up of different things, and I'm just not seeing that as
Yes.
much as I'd like to. Right. So, well, I think one of the first ideas, and I'll digress for a minute, but I want to come back to Sam's invitation.
Mm-hmm.
So Amazon, okay, we all know Amazon, right? And Amazon has a live platform, right? Who knew? and you can be an Amazon influencer, and you can you can have your own live show, right? And you can talk about the junk of Amazon, right? And I'm like, this is the most boring thing ever, and the hosts are bored, right? You watch these, but people tune in and they talk about all the random crap. Okay, well, it only runs on iOS, right? Because you have to use their streaming app, right, to make it work. Like, oh, that's interesting. How the hell am I going to make iOS work? Because I'm a PC Android guy.
Yep.
For better or worse, and it's just what it is. And so I'm like, okay, I know I can get an iPad, and I can double stream it, so I can restream my that, right? And like I can do the Amazon show and then use Restream to screen share that into LinkedIn. And then all of a sudden your mind just explodes like, oh, I can stream over the top of other streams.
Yeah.
Ooh. And now all of a sudden you're like getting back to Sam's idea. Like now you have these audio events, right? Oh. And that are not recorded.
Yeah.
Right. What is stop? And I actually tested this with Nadine. So Nadine Hare was talking, and it was a bunch of us. I think she was talking to Amber, or maybe I think Adam was there. So I felt like I couldn't really participate, right? And I sort of felt like a voyeur, but still, I did. It does work where you can stream the system sound of an audio event in a live like this. So you can like double dip.
So is it like playing your exponential sound or your SoundCloud or one of those while you're live streaming like on Twitch or something else? And the reason I say that is because Restream has that ability. except it drowns out whoever the guest is. Every time they try to say something, it clicks their audio a little bit.
Right,
Whereas,
because it records system sound, and so when your
yeah,
mic overlays,
but Epidemic
then
Sound doesn't do that. I don't know why.
yeah, see, there's some issues here that
Yeah.
I haven't fully baked out. But if I just keep my mouth shut for 5 seconds, right, which is really hard to do, but it 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 is possible to stream over the top of another stream, and if it's an audio event, stream it, capture it, record it,
Hmm.
and then go back, because they're not being recorded right now. And I think there's some safety in that, but it's also like, okay, anybody could be doing that. Like there's nothing stopping them. I mean, they could just, what could I do? I could get mad after the fact, but really, I'm going to hire a lawyer or something. Forget about it. Right. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, I think exploring those kinds of things. So anyway, so getting back to, what's possible, right? Is it cool or not? I mean, let's ask that question. Is like, what makes it a gimmick, right? Or not?
I think it's execution. I mean, I'm curious what the audience thinks, but I actually think that, platform, it's like anything else. Intention is everything. You try, that is the bomb, right, Paul? Yeah. It's really interesting. And I do have to second what Samantha was saying, because it's one of the things that I think is so great about you, that you get so excited about this. I mean, I know your LinkedIn's, your YouTubes go back a long way, where you've been experimenting with video for a while. And I love that, because like I told you before the show, I don't know if a lot of people have noticed it or thought about it, but when you came out with the 344, and I was like, okay, 15 minutes. And then we had, so we have hour formats, we have 15 minutes, we have shorter. I've done a few that are super short on Twitch, and then some that are a little bit longer. But I was calling it the Bermuda shorts of live formats, because it's not long pants, it's not shorts, but it's right in the middle there. And I think it's great, because not everybody has an hour. Not everybody has a half hour to invest, even if they can take it with them on their phone and just listen. So sometimes it's like, that 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or maybe something smaller, where it's a small, digestible, quick hit of information. And I love that. And then you did something else on the 344 that I was like, genius, where at the very end, that 1 minute thing, where automatically, like, I cut mine up into shorts, but you're like, this is going to be the short right here, go. And then you take it to the bank. And
Yeah.
so I just love that, because it's going to happen. What you need to get ready for, but it's also, every single one of them has been like amazing information. That's the salient point of everything. I just think that's a format that I do think is going to be a winner in so many ways.
I hope so. It's that 1 minute clip, right, was born, was, necessity is the mother of invention, right? Like the first couple episodes, I think it was the first week or so, and I'm like trying to pull clips and edit, and I'm like, well, this is stupid. I cannot even, right? I was taking me way too long, and it was no possible way I could clip any, and I did miss a few.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't, even with the clip set up, I just, life got in the way. I just couldn't do it. And and to those guests, I apologize. But the idea that this short format was workable was actually really fun to do. And I think that's actually 20 minutes is probably better. I actually, as I relaxed on that time toward the end of this first season, it ended like 20 minutes was really sort of the sweet spot. 16 was a little short.
Yeah.
And even still, and then I did experiment with like super ultra short. That doesn't work. Like literally like 5 minutes. And the reason it doesn't work is because LinkedIn doesn't spin up the notifications fast enough.
Yeah.
Right. So within 5 minutes of LinkedIn, the notifications are up, and then you're gone.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea that people don't want to be part of it, I think is false. They just miss it.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to find that zone of, okay, how do we provide enough time and enough accessibility in the ideal show, sort of format. So, I find it's like hard to sustain a dialogue for a full hour, right? It's like
I've
sometimes
never
I can.
found that, huh? I've never found that to be a problem.
Okay, well, we all have our
I'm
strengths,
just
right?
kidding. Yeah, it's called palavering, and it's not a good thing. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I think then we need to lean into what we can, what our limitations are necessarily. We can stretch them a little bit, but like, hey, I run out of things to talk about after a little bit. But if we have a really focused agenda,
Yeah.
right, and 16 minutes allowed for that,
Yeah.
right? It's like we got seven. We got shit to do here,
Yeah.
right? We got to do it, and we got to get down to it. And that show is interesting too, because it didn't really get much of a, well, really, I can't say that it had a following, right? It and I think this speaks into where the opportunities lie with how to do shows that people want to come back to, right? Like they want to subscribe to. And that's the question I want to ask you, in real time. It's, what do you think about the introducing sort of a story arc
to the show?
To the season, right? So if we say, okay, it's a show, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to be like David Letterman? Are we going to be like Phil Donahue? Are we going to be like Sally Jesse Raphael? Are we going to be like, any of these, Oprah Winfrey, where it's sort of cut? Can we do that? Are we good enough for that? Or how do we incentivize people to actually stop and come into the live, right? Because I mean, look at our audience today, like Sam and Melissa and Paul, they're just on fire, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, look at these comments, they're awesome. And I don't know who LinkedIn user 5 bajillion likes was.
I think that's Carrie. I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. I mean, that took like 15 seconds or more to put that in there, right? Like, and that's what it's all about, right? So if you're not here on the live, you can read the comments, kinda, which is actually reading comments and trying to respond to them is a sucky experience. But it's about this moment in time where we're all here together. And yeah.
I mean, I think that's a twofold kind of issue there. So on the one hand, I like the video live format, and I like using Restream, I'll be honest. StreamYard is great too. I just chose Restream because I can save it and then I can repurpose it. I also like the fact that I can link to other channels so that if LinkedIn is having a problem, or YouTube might be having it, which they haven't yet, but if they do, it's available elsewhere. It's also available long term. I save every episode and it goes on my website, so you can also see it there. Now, that's important because, there's going to be, like, I pull different salient pieces of information and I try to save those and make them actionable in some way. Because again, I want to do this. I want to create like a library of useful information, not just from my gray matter, but from yours and from everybody else's. So I think that's really important to be able to save it. And, and again, this is from the person who wasn't going to do it like ever again after 2009. So, but I do think having it is important. It's a resource. And one of the reasons for that is because one of the things I do in my practice is when I'm distance coaching, I do it on Zoom and I record every session and I make those recordings. They are private. They are for that client, but they get that forever. And I've had people give me feedback that it was so helpful to go back and watch it again and absorb the information again. When you're not in that moment and you can digest it a little bit differently. That's why I think replays do have value. I do think they do. However, that said, just a blanket replay of something without chaptering it out or doing something to help the viewer, I think does nothing. It's going to lay there, like a dead fish. It's not going to do anything. So I think that it does have value there. And again, the whole intent is, yes, the live, I want everybody to interact. I love the interaction in the chats. I think
Yeah.
that is so fun for people to be able to do. You get to see your friends, everybody's here. It's so awesome. Like, what's everybody talking about? You can pump your own stuff. I don't mind that. Melissa's coffee chat. Samantha has two. She's got, the leadership, and then she's got connection. So you've got all that. You've got Wendy, with Freya. You've got you've got all these people Paul has a show now, and that's wonderful. Pump them all. Like, get in there and talk about what you're talking about. I think it's so important. But then also on the other side of that, who out there might just benefit from that one little nugget of information that came out? Just understanding that, yeah, I'm happy to do this now. But there was a time when I was absolutely terrified to do it. And it happened about, like, I would say maybe within like the hour of you asking me if, hey, do you want to be on the Hotness Unleashed show? And I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, holy crap. Exactly. Like, that was a literal, like, oh shit moment. And I had to really figure that one out. Do I really want to have egg on my face and say no after I've said yes? Do I really want to be that person you can't count on? Or do I maybe need to do some introspection and realize that this thing that I have been, this block I've had for more than a decade, it may be time to put that away. But then how do you do that? And so that was a real turning point for me. And I think that's great. That might be helpful to somebody else. Samantha, I was talking about you before the show. You almost don't meet somebody who's got that level of courage, like busting through that wall, baby. We're going. Coming with me because I'm going. Melissa is another one, right? And I know that a lot of that comes from lived experience, but some of that is just natural, raw courage. Like, I'm gonna do this. And I do think you have that as well when it comes to, I'm gonna try this. Doesn't work, cool. I'm gonna talk about what I don't like about what didn't work and what did work. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, again, we go to social and it's like, here's your highlight reel of all your filtered everything perfectness. And, I that's fine for people who do it. I don't wear makeup. I wear mascara, but I don't wear face makeup. I can't do all the stuff. I don't use filters. Maybe I should, but I don't, right? Partly it's because I don't know how to do it. So it's not going to happen, So what you see is what you get. And that's cool. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, I'm also totally down with that. And I totally respect your choice. But I do think that with a live format, I do think it has value, whether you're participating live or you're watching the replay. And I do think it is exciting, and I think it's totally legit. I think it only becomes gimmicky if it's, how do I say this? Gimmicky is a subjective term because I can, like we were talking about, I can go on Twitch and there are some live streams on Twitch that I'm like, total gimmick. I'm not going to dress up like a cat. I'm not going to sit there and clean myself. But for some people, that's important to them. They want to see it. And their numbers show it. Cool. Not my jam. My jam's going to be over here just talking about stuff. And that's fine. So what might be a gimmick to me might not be to somebody else. That might be their legit pastime outlet. Cool. So I have to like balance what my idea of gimmicky is with what somebody else's idea of legitimacy might be. Does that make sense?
That is a very interesting way of looking at it, because I was literally not thinking that when you asked me like what we want to talk about today, right? Yeah. I was thinking more along the lines of, if I'm a business, can I use lives to move my business forward or not? Yeah. Right. And that's what I was thinking, right? I wasn't thinking about whether the content was gimmicky, right, itself. So I'll have to really stop and think about that, because like for Twitch, I'm not hooked up with Twitch. Yeah. Because kind of like, I'm just not into it, right? It was really kind of like, okay, this is not aligned with where I'm trying to go with the Hotness Unleashed show.
And right? And I get that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it felt kind of just, I don't know. I need to go take a shower afterwards. It was like, oh, just like, and put that on Twitch. Jeez, I mean, it's like, that's what it felt like was out there. And
there is some of that out there on Twitch. Absolutely. Yeah.
I just wasn't into it. So I haven't hooked that up, but I do respect the fact that it is a channel. It's a big one, and a lot of people there. And it does provide opportunities for people to access content from when things go funky, right? Like,
yeah,
there's that.
And I think for Twitch, and again, this isn't a show about Twitch, but I think the differentiator for Twitch is what we see in the comments here. Twitch streams live and die by the audience participation. If there's no audience participation, you may as well not be live streaming. How do I know? Because when this is live streaming on Twitch right now, but I'm in the Restream studio, so I'm not actually interacting with maybe if there's one person watching it, but at some point, if there are more, I have to think about that. Twitch streamers live and die by interacting with their audience. That's also how they get paid, right? So that's something that's very important for them. And so it's a platform that I think has value. And I think there are people on there who want to have the kind of discussions I want to have, but then there are also people who want to have different discussions. Cool. So it took me a little bit to find some of those because I was like, okay, this is all stuff that's not for me. And then I stumbled upon a couple of shows that I was like, oh, I like her. Oh, I would listen. I'm going to listen to that. That I like his point of view. And so there were a couple that I was like, ooh, that one's stretching my understanding of that point of view. And anytime I feel stretched, uncomfortable, I want to listen more because I want to know, am I wrong? Am I right? Like, I don't know. So those kind of things are important. I think you get that with lives where you don't with the recording, but the recording, like Bruce was saying, allows you to digest in a more comfortable way for yourself if you choose to watch it. And again, if you chapter it out, it's a little bit easier for people.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about as you were talking and kind of watching some of these comments come through. I also wanted to bring up the quality of the video that Twitch creators have. I remember when I was out there looking at it, I stumbled into somebody who was like playing harp music or something. I mean, it was just, I don't want to say it was weird. It was, because it wasn't. It was amazing. It blew my mind. Okay. I'm like, she's literally playing a harp live right now. And I'm like, holy crap, where does this even come from? But I was like, oh, wait a minute. The sound quality that she's able to produce is really mind-blowing. And I'm thinking, my sound quality sucks. Why is that? What is the difference between what she's doing and what I'm doing? And how can I get like that? Right. And that's why I bought the now infamous, Rode NT1, which was what Carissa Carner was using, because Carissa made me feel like my game was, totally amateur. And I'm like, Carissa, what do you got? Because her voice is like butter, right? It's like literally the smoothest voice. It's like the LinkedIn voice of the century. And she's like, well, I got this Rode NT1. I got to get that. Right. And then Adam, right? Bless Adam's heart. Love that guy. And that's actually, I shouldn't say that because I know it's a Southern. I learned that. It's like, it's an insult. God love him. Bless his heart. Yeah, that's a backhanded compliment. I'm not from the South, so I can tell you. Yeah. Well, I watched this movie Vengeance, and I learned that that's not a nice thing to say. So I won't say that. I want to say thank you to Adam, who said, dude, you got your mic backwards, right? It's like, all right. And Adam and I have been buddies ever since because he was honest and he told me, right. And that's brings up Diacosta as well, who said, dude, you don't want to take intent to that's the stupidest idea ever. And there are some gifts in that when those kinds of things come at the right time in the right way and with a spirit of helpfulness. But anyway, my point I was trying to make was like, we get into these other channels, right? And Twitch is built on live streaming. That's what it is. It doesn't exist for any other reason. So, okay, is that a gimmick in and of itself? I don't know, but it seems to work. If I go out there, I can get better, right? I can find inspiration. And same goes for YouTube. Like, I didn't know a thing about lighting. I didn't know how to even begin to control my lighting until I went over to YouTube. Yeah. And I get into it like, oh, okay, you got key lights. You got, I can't remember all the names of the lights, but all, these hair and all this other stuff, right? And so it wasn't until I got out into the YouTube channel and started asking questions like that, the lighting got better. Yeah. And then you start to look at backgrounds, right? Yeah. So look at your background, right? You're dialed in, you've got all the color and everything's tight. And, this background is, I know people think they think it's fake, but it's not. It's that is real. I know. Had that printed up at a sign shop, but I was so frustrated because I get on YouTube and I follow this. Ben Johnson, I think his name is. I can't remember anyway. he has this 15-second YouTube short, and he's shining LEDs in his background, and it's coloring the background and changing the color of it. And I cannot figure out how to make that work. Right? It wasn't working. And now what's super fun is that now with this background, I can change the colors, right?
I know. I love it. I
know. Like this is so rad, right? It's like look at that. Now I'm blue.
I know.
And that's just like from my silly phone, right? So anyway, I don't know where I was. I just got lost train of thought.
I think that's important because you actually gave me some tips early on about things like that. And I'm still working on mine, right? So like I've got my key light over here and I've got my ring light over here. And, I understand from, Chris Hennessy with the where to put the lights and all that. So I don't get, because I wear glasses. So we don't want to see all the, if I do that, you see it, So I'm trying to do better at that. I'm always trying to learn. And this was something I was trying to learn from, and it doesn't work. It doesn't absorb the noise. So I have foam in the window because I don't want a tinny sound. And, this room is only so big. And so I'm thinking about all those things and I'm trying to do better, but I'm also not going to not do this until I'm perfect, because perfect never happens. So that's why I'm going to go out there, and I wouldn't be, if I had waited to do that, I wouldn't be able to have a great conversation with you. All these people would not be here today talking to each other about all the cool stuff that they're talking about and sharing what they're talking about with us. So I think there's value in absolutely sharing what helping other people. I definitely appreciate it, and because you're helping everybody get better. And everybody wants that, So I think that's really important, not to wait until you have the perfect mic or the perfect whatever, to get started. Get started now, and the more you do it, the more you're going to build your confidence to know that you can do it. You are doing it, and you're going to see incremental changes getting better and better and better every time, and I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, it's actually not about me or you. It's about anybody who wants to listen and tune in, because otherwise there's no point. I can talk to myself all day long. There are people who know me personally in the audience, like in real life. They know Gretchen can talk to herself all day long. Okay.
Well, I like what you said here. And I wanted to bring up earlier was that, the live, particularly if we schedule this thing versus if I just say, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to make a 2-minute video, right? I could spend hours making that 2-minute video, or I could schedule something with you and I could make it happen. And here we are, and we're talking, and it's getting done.
Absolutely.
Yep. Right. It is getting done right now. And okay, maybe it's not perfect, but I think so I also want to kind of circle back to business, right? And to your, so you're in business, you're running your own show. Have you found that doing the Flight Attendant episode 12, right?
Yeah.
Is that moving your business forward, do you think?
Yes and no. So I have to answer that in two ways. So yes, it's moving my business forward, because speaking to other people is a de facto foundation of my business. If I can't do it, I can't do it. Distance coaching is something I've been doing since the pandemic. I didn't really do it before the pandemic, but of course that changed everything. And I wasn't coaching full time. I was still a corporate marketing director when the pandemic began. So I moved to distance coaching, and that changed everything. I wasn't, worried because it was private, so I'm not worried about being broadcast, but being able to speak to people one-on-one is very important. Being able to speak one-to-many is even more important. And so doing video and gaining that confidence to be able to do that is incredibly important for my business. My business plan has a very defined trajectory. So it is very important. I can tell you in 12 episodes, I have talked to several people, but none of them, I'm not working one-on-one with any of them. But I can tell you that one of my guests did sign a client after being on this show. So I do love that, and I champion that, and I applaud that in every way. So yes and no, total transparency. Yes, it is good for my business because it feeds the long-term strategy that I have for my business. But in the short term, no, I have not seen any dollar signs remuneration from that. Not yet.
Okay.
12 episodes.
Well, and I know that Tanya Bugby hasn't seen it either, right? So she's been pretty open about that. For me, like I had a sales call. Gosh, I don't remember. It was like in October maybe, and it had been a while, right?
Yeah.
Because just business was slow. It was the summer, and I got really rusty. And it the live this live kind of environment, this just talking, getting used to
Mhm.
just being letting it flow, right,
Yeah.
was really helpful because I'd gotten out of that sort of habit about talking about business things and technical things. And then I had it was right before I had Carissa on, about halfway through the 344 live season, and I
Mhm.
had literally just done a sales call, and it was so fascinating to like have her on as a public speaking coach, and then having looked at myself and how I did this sales call, and I'm like, oh wow, I was really crappy, right? I was really bad, and but then to be able to see and then to intentionally practice
Mhm.
getting better,
Yeah.
and saying, oh, you know what? Why is it that I'm allowing my sales experience to have a crappy background with crappy sound and slow and full of ums and not really prepared and not really flowing,
Mhm.
when I'm not going to allow that for the 344? So it like shook me up, and I'm
Yeah.
able to say, oh, wait a minute, my clients, my sales prospects need a better experience. And
Yeah.
one of the things I've been thinking about is, like, if I'm a business and I have all my reps out here doing Zoom calls as their, why do they have crappy cameras and bad audio and poorly conceived backgrounds
Yeah.
and lighting that is just horrendously bad, and these cameras that suck?
You
Why?
actually you actually, you gave me critical feedback about that. I had a camera early on and you're like, "It's fuzzy, I don't like it." And it wasn't an HD camera. I didn't know. I was just like, "Webcam, looks good. Buy it, Amazon." It was here 2 days later. I'm like, "Boom, I'm in business." And you were
Yeah,
like, but not so much." And so I was
yeah,
like, "Why isn't it working?" And I'm looking at
yeah,
the resolution and it didn't go where I needed to go. So I
yeah.
changed that. I'm still working on my lighting cuz I look blue and you look great. And so I know
What are
something's
you
wrong
using
here.
right now? What's your camera?
It's the Nexigo one that you said not to get. The
Oh.
N60. It's the N60, yeah, but it's a high
Okay.
def camera,
Yeah,
and it actually has been pretty good for me so far. But
yeah,
again,
yeah,
placement and all that. Like Nasheen has great advice about camera placement and whatnot. And I'm working with what I have, but I'm always looking to get better. But
yeah,
the other thing too, when it comes to business, is with things like this and things like any live that you do, if it's video and you can record it, or audio and you can record it, but specifically video, I can again save the HD version. I can cut it up into shorts or little videos that I can then put on the new Flight Attendant YouTube channel,
yeah,
or I can, when I convert this to a podcast, which is probably going to I thought it would happen by now, but I'm actually going to wait till 25 episodes in, and then I'm going to do the conversion. That HD audio is critical. And there's actually an Adobe, if you have an Adobe ID, there's actually a website you can go that will absolutely smooth like butter your
mm.
audio. It is like
Does it
pristine.
does it really work?
It absolutely works.
Because
Yeah.
I've fooled around with those a little bit, and they're okay, but I haven't been that
Yeah.
impressed. What's happening right now for your camera is your light sensor is freaking out for some
Is
reason.
it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
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 probably
it's like
the ones in the background.
something's happened. It's like, and I've seen that too, where I'll go back to YouTube and I'll look green because
Yeah.
my light sensor thinks that for some reason I need to be matched to these flames.
Yeah.
But that technical, I want to talk about the technical side for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
minute. Because Travis Lochner, I mentioned him in our warm up. That dude is on fire, right? Like his for all the live streamers out here, go watch his Friday night dance thing, okay? And I didn't really jam with it because I mean, I saw it, I liked it, I appreciated the quality of the
Mhm.
execution, right? Obviously, they know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
he has a team who's helping him, and they're doing they're multicamming, and they got great sound, they got great sort of video in the background,
Yeah.
and so there is a higher level of execution that's happening in this space, and
Mhm.
he's an example of that.
Yeah.
Also, Hacker Valley Media is doing it. They're pretty solid in the B2B tech space like that, and I think we can continue to aspire to that. but it's these sort of technical execution points is like, how do we how do we how far do we take it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that kind of brings us back to, like, where that kind of that beginning thing is like, at what point do we just start, right?
Yeah.
Are we good with that, right? And I think back, like, to my very, very first live that was inspired by Dr. Jim, of all people, right? I love that guy. He's the best. But it was Julie Maury and I catch Julie Maury, and she's totally not ready. She's like laid in bed drinking a glass of wine. You can go back and it's there. It's all
I love it.
recorded, and that was okay. She was a little embarrassed, and her kiddo, or her precious kiddo, was just bombing the whole thing the whole time, and
Aw.
it was fun, and yeah, we loved it, and I think at this stage, right, Gretch, it's like we can begin to push forward a little bit more, right? So I am thinking about, okay, how do I pull off what Travis did?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that, right? And so for the Hotness show, I hope I have time this week, but I want to do the sound effects when we announce people, right?
Yeah.
So when the next
Do you have
announcement
that
comes
board? Do you have the board?
in,
No.
it was like $300. I don't know.
I know. I want one, but yeah, that's to Sam's point in the audience. That's my shiny object. I'm like, oh, I want that board, but again, I can't justify the expense right now because I don't need it. I want it,
Yeah.
but I don't need it. And so I want I also take the money that I have and I invest everything back into the business because I want to be sure that I'm operating at the right level for the people that I serve. So I have to balance what I want to play with what they need. And so in terms of, bolstered firewall or, more access to other resources that I'm doing or more time for me to create those resources, research, things like that. I want to be sure that I'm doing that. So I do invest heavily back into the business. But I want that board. I want it.
Those boards are fun. I think Adam
Yeah.
Spock has one. Maybe he's not gonna be a guest, but I think what I can do is I can add the sound effect to the Google Slides presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I push the transition button from slide to slide,
Mm-hmm.
I think I can make a sound.
Yeah. I did
And
one with Paul on his, and you can do it. Yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna try and do that when I set that up and get it going, and hopefully that'll work. But it is like a mindset of, okay, what can we do next, right? It isn't just sort of showing up. And I see other like businesses right now, particularly in the tech space, are at that stage where you and I were 8-9 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Just like I don't even know what to do. I'm just going to show up,
Yeah.
and push the button,
Yeah.
and it shows, right?
Yeah.
It really does show. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, guess what? We can get you. We can fix that. We can fix all this stuff. We can make it awesome. We can make it fun. We can make it feel like you're good. And I do think that you, with somebody who's experienced like you are now, and I am, and certainly Don Cohen, gee, that guy's like 500 shows or whatever, and Chris Hennessy and Shree, right? So she's totally pro, and there's other lots of people who have proven that they can run a live show without it going off rails.
Yeah.
In a variety of Gabe, right? Like, like he did it. And I do want to shout out to him. Like, he was massively inspirational to me.
Yeah.
I'm like wasn't approachable, like didn't even know the guy, king of LinkedIn Live, whatever, right? I get on his daily, and I'm afraid to go monologue, and he says, just do it. Just don't be silly. Just go. And that was the inspiration for the early. And that show is really weird. I got to tell you, that is very surprising. And so there's so many different formats. Like, if you don't play around with different ideas, the Bermuda Shorts idea, right? Or the long form, the hour dialogue like this, or the long, the monologue. And I totally wipe out at about 40 minutes on the monologue. I can't even go farther.
Yeah.
Right. But what other things can we dream of, and what is going to work? What's going to work for businesses? I think that's. big question.
I think it's a huge question. I think it's an important question because at the end of the day, we want to be able to business is supporting people. So it's not just the big, corporations and other things. It's the one-to-ones. It's what, how do we get to people what they need? How do I get what I need? That kind of thing. I think those are all excellent questions. I know we're basically out of time and I don't want to go over, but we're going to. But I do thank you. I want to have you back because I don't think we even scratched the surface on this, and I have like notes that I wanted to mention about you. But I will do that on another one because I don't want to hold everybody up. I'm so grateful to everybody who came and chatted with us today about this. I just think it's such an important thing. I'll close with this quote. Yeah. Be more afraid of being nothing than being something. Right.
And Paul, I'm going to say Paul Deitch too. What was and I'm going to mess it up, I'm sure, but it was your, it was a story.
Be more. Paul's quote. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this one is awesome. But there was another one that came up and it was like your journey.
Your struggle could be somebody else's survival story. And Paul, yes. I'm paraphrasing, but I think he's absolutely right. Absolutely.
Boom. That was like, gives me goosebumps. That's like, woo, baby.
That's why it's so important for everybody to share what you know, share what you've been through, share your experience. Because as Paul Deitch says, your struggle could be somebody else's survival story. You just don't know. And, for you, Trevor, I mean, you're a big part of mine just because, I wouldn't be doing this if you hadn't invited me on your show. So I'm really grateful. And I do want to have you back. Yes.
And I'm coming down to Boca and end of May. So I'll be back. So we're gonna have to IRL that up. We got to plan that out.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so there.
There you go. Your story will become someone else's survival guide. There it is. That's
absolutely. Yes.
That right there. That's money. I got to tell you, I love that quote right there.
Absolutely. I'm going to end on that one. I just am so grateful to everybody for being here. We're going to have Trevor back because we're not even done here. So you're all on the hook to come on back. And I appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys so much. We're going to be out in 3, 2, bye.
Bye.